Hello everyone, Known Consequence here with episode 6 of my remastered original Dungeons & Dragons Adventure Module playthrough series, the campaign of which is now in its 11th year. So as always, spoiler alert, in this video I will be revealing details about this adventure module. And as a reminder, here are the player characters. There are 6 characters being controlled by 4 different players. And here is a roster of the NPCs with the party. We have the characters' 2 full-time animal handlers, Quan and Jasmine, and then all the various animals that they are responsible for caring for. So where we left off last time, after spending the night at the village of Nulb, the characters set out cross-country to the Temple of Elemental Evil. After exploring the exterior of the building, the only entrance they could find was at the south end, circled here. The interior was dark and quiet, so the characters lit torches and went inside. The character soon discovered a set of broad stone steps descending down into the darkness. At the bottom of the stairs, they entered a corridor which soon led to a 4-way intersection. Rather than turning, the characters decided to simply continue moving east, or to the right of the screen. They eventually encountered a ramp, which descended even deeper underground. However, the characters decided to ignore this for now, and they continued heading east. After finding another 4-way intersection, the characters saw stairs leading back up to the surface. At this point, they decided to turn north at the intersection. At still yet another intersection, the characters turned east again. And that corridor soon opened up into an actual room, with stone pillars supporting the ceiling in the darkness overhead. Moving further into the room triggered a trap, which caused bars to drop from the ceiling and block the entrance to the room. The noise from the trap also caused a pair of harpies who were roosting far overhead to swoop down and attack the intruders. The noise also aroused a nest of ghouls who were in an adjacent room, causing them to emerge and attack as well. This screenshot was taken a few rounds into the battle after most of the ghouls had already been defeated. You can also see where Thorol cast a web spell at the monsters. Unfortunately, during the course of the battle, Obrak had been attacked by one of the ghouls and paralyzed by its touch. As a result, he was unable to move and could not further assist in the battle. However, in the BX rule set, the clerical spell Cure Light Wounds not only heals injuries, but it will also remove ghoul paralysis. So, as soon as he could, Quint made his way over to Obrak and used that spell to get him back in the fight. After clearing the pillared room, the characters reorganized themselves and approached a door in the north wall. Upon opening it, they found yet more ghouls waiting for them. However, Obrak and Aramis managed to keep the monsters confined to the doorway, thus preventing them from entering the room and spreading out to attack the other characters. However, not everything went the characters' way. As I've mentioned previously, I do use critical hits and fumbles in my game. However, rolling a natural 1 or a 20 does not automatically result in those events. It only means that the combatant rolls on the relevant random table to see if anything happens. There's a chance that nothing unusual at all will happen, despite the crit or fumble roll result. Unfortunately, in this case, a critical hit rolled by a ghoul did have an effect, a very devastating one against Aramis. And although the ghouls' numbers were gradually worn down, the monsters were not completely ineffective. The little symbols next to Obrak and Gorbadak indicate that they have both been affected by the ghouls' paralyzing touch and can no longer help fight. In addition to that, one of the characters has just suffered another critical hit from a ghoul's attack, although I do not remember which one. And finally, at the bottom of the text chat window, you can see that Thorol has announced that he will be casting a spell next combat round. The spell that Thorol cast was Shield on himself, as evidenced by the icon symbol now appearing next to his character. With so many characters now paralyzed by the ghouls, he expected to soon be in melee combat himself. In the meantime, Aramis had no sooner managed to finally shut the door in the north wall when a secret door slipped open in the west wall. You can barely see it pointed out here in the darkness. And once the secret door was open, two ghasts sprang into the room. They both immediately attacked Quint and managed to paralyze him with their touch. Next combat round, the ghasts moved further into the room and outright killed Garrett the Thief with their attacks. Keep in mind, BX Thieves have very low hit points when just starting out, no better than magic users. Garrett was unable to withstand the multiple attacks per round, which ghasts are allowed, and they killed him. And so, by now, the only two characters who are still able to function are Aramis the Fighter and Thorol the Magic User. But now that the ghasts each had a fresh victim to feed upon, they grabbed Quint and Garrett and began dragging them back towards the secret door. This screenshot shows the DM's view of the area. The ghasts have dragged their victims through the secret door and back into their lair, while a ghoul waits nearby. The ghoul was the last survivor from the fight at the north door, and it had circled around to here when the characters managed to reclose and spike the north door shut. You can also see Aramis cautiously approaching the still open secret door, with Thorol following because he is currently holding a torch. But remember, this is the DM's view. Aramis's actual player cannot see anything in the darkness of the secret room and has no idea of what's in there. For all he knows, there could be more monsters besides just the two ghasts. Regardless, Aramis cautiously peered into the darkened room and immediately spotted both Garrett and Quint in the faint ambient light from Thorol's torch. However, he could also hear the ghasts hissing and snarling in the darkness as well. Well, desperate times now called for desperate measures. As I've discussed in other videos, each Halloween I run a holiday-themed one-shot, and the players who participate receive holiday reward items for their characters. So, at this point, Aramis brought out a Halloween reward item he possessed, a Halloween mask. You can pause the video and read the description if you like, but basically it repels undead from the wearer for a few combat rounds. Meanwhile, Thorol deployed a pumpkin carriage holiday reward item, as described on the right. Again, you can pause the video and read the description if you like, but it is basically a mass teleportation device. Here, Thorol has deployed his pumpkin carriage, while Aramis has put on the Halloween mask, causing the ghasts to flee to the north. The last remaining ghoul is cowering in the corner, also unable to approach Aramis. This screenshot is from a few rounds later. Aramis has carried Quint and Garrett to the pumpkin carriage, while Thorol has dragged Gorbadak over to it. The only helpless character still remaining outside the pumpkin carriage is Obrak. But by now, Aramis's Halloween mask has expired and the gas have returned. The situation now came down to a single initiative roll to determine which side won and thus got to move first. As you can see in the chat window, I rolled a 4, while the players rolled a 5. Since the characters won, Aramis grabbed up Obrak, tossed him into the carriage, and dove in just behind him. The moment they were all inside, Thorol gave the command word and the pumpkin carriage disappeared just as the gas were charging it. Thorol chose as the carriage's destination the common room of the inn at Hamlet, and so the character suddenly appeared in that place and fell in a pile on the floor, much to the surprise of the other patrons, as you can imagine. It was only a short matter of time before the ghoul paralyzation wore off, but there was still the matter of Garrett being outright dead. Luckily, one of the characters had in their possession yet another Halloween reward item, a Wake the Dead scroll. So they decided to use it on Garrett now, rather than taking him all the way to the city for resurrection. One other loose end, Quan and the character's horses were still at Nulb, waiting for them to return from the temple. So they used Otis's suggestion and sent Thorol's owl to Nulb to tell Otis's giant owls that the characters were now back at Hamlet. Upon receiving the information, Otis sent Quan and the horses back to Hamlet as well. Alright, well, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you can, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Viewer engagement helps. If you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel. If you know of a good place, please share the video. And anything you do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.